Hello, welcome back to the channel. How are you? How's things going? It's rather a bit of a warm day today. We are using the vintage rose die cuts here. They're so pretty. Just going through some of those. And also I have the vintage rose basics 6x6 paper range. Now, Paper Rose does have the, I'm not going to say all the time because I can't quite remember, and there's a lot of papers, but quite often we have the basics range, which has a lot more of these, I don't know what really to call them, but you know, your basic stripes and I mean, even this one that's got the flowers on it. And then you have the another just vintage rose scheme of things. I tend to go for these basics, and that's just me, but that's okay. They're both gorgeous. I will totally say that. I've pulled out a little die cut of the little, I suppose to me it's like it could be someone's shed, you know, but to me it's almost like, maybe the Aussies in the group will know, but you know how we used to get, I don't see them around too much. We used to get those little roadside stalls. I mean, this has got plants, but you know what I mean? Do you get what I'm understanding? Anywho, I had this scrap from another, you'll see it next month. Just saying, another card, and I have cut this panel just be a little bit smaller than Australian card size. For me, I like to use 14.1 by 9.7, which also gives me a mat, room for a mat, which is generally 10 centimeters by 14.4, give or take. That's what I like to do. Now, if you've been with me for any length of the time, you know I do not waste die cuts underneath other die cuts, like the whole thing. So I have trimmed this down. I've raised I don't know what we're going to call it. Let's call it a little gardening nook. Let's just call it that. I've raised that up in a little bit of foam. And I'm just going through and just figuring out where I'm placing all my elements and how they're going to be raised. So the back two flowers are going to be flat. These are going to have a bit of length. These actually ended up being I accidentally bought 2 packs. So you may have to alter your flower combination for this, because I think I used exactly the same flower and somehow I managed to get it out of the other pack. But what can I say? The Let's Celebrate isn't going to stay. I just decided that I didn't like it. I don't know why. You may go, you? So I've stamped it out of another paper. Still didn't like the Let's Celebrate. So we're going to cut that down to the Best Wishes. We do not start these things again. So I have just roughly measured my cardstock to be the same width, and I will double check that before I stick it down again. I am going to see, I'm just measuring that. It's a little bit hard to see. I do apologize. Trim off my sides, add some glue with the Paper Rose liquid glue, and we're just going to slip that in. And to me, that sort of stood out a little bit better. But you do boo. You may like, you do you. You do you, boo. Which is what I wanted to say. But you do whatever you like. You know, that's the way it is. I have some clear crystal mix because if you know me, you know me. And you know what I'm going to do. And so we will adhere a couple of those, just little bits around, pieces around. Now, in order to get my elements down the sides, I actually have only put a little bit of the foam tape right smack bang in the middle of our little, what do we call it? Gardening nook. And this allows me to raise it up, slip things in, and off we go. Now you can adhere those down, especially the right-hand corner, onto the best wishes sentiment later on. But you can also leave it. So that is card number 1. Card number 2. I'm going to use these little tags. I'm just trying to find the card. I really like them. So we're going to punch a little hole. I am not going to put any thread, but of course you could. That's all good. I've just got a little hole in that. You could even go a little bit bigger, but this is what I had on my desk. So I thought I'm going to use that, and I quite like that. It doesn't really add too much, but I think it just sort of finishes it off. Just rearranging where I wanted all my elements. We've got foam on the back of those, and I'm going to add a couple of other die cuts. So I'm just really hoping that these are going to give you some ideas on what you can use die cuts for and how you can position them, because everyone does that differently. And I look at some of the girls that have used die cuts and they're just gorgeous, and I'm like, I would never have thought about that. But that's awesome. I like that. And so I will bury that away, and I might have to go back through Paper Rose Instagram, scroll through there and look at all the different embellishments and how people have added the die cuts. And then you start from there. And of course you can alter that and change that to make it your own. You know, clean and simple. I still think they're relatively clean and simple. That may be just me. I certainly do go way cleaner, shall we say. But to me, they're not too fussy. Now I've positioned a little corner floral embellishment in that bottom left-hand corner, and that's going to balance it off with the top. You could, of course, put it in the right-hand bottom corner to be very symmetrical, but I quite liked the up and down, one on top of the other, and the second one obviously has a little bit more dimension because it is coming out from the edge of the cardstock. And so I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to say with all this. So you've got the paper that's got the little embellishments. They're a little bit more muted because they're on coloured paper. And then you've got the embellishment that you can see there with the pot, and also you've got the other ones that are going to be spilling out over the edge of it actually spills out over the edge of the card base. I've got this little tab we've glued down on the back of one of them. Sorry, my head's getting in the way. I'm just making sure that they're lined up, which is actually really quite easy considering we've got the grid paper. It's hard to see in the video, but this paper has a grid on it. So next we've got a little embellishment. So he's all flat. Again, I am going to come back in and add a couple of dimensions down the bottom to support the bottom of his basket. We'll see. I'll show you that in a minute. This is another scrap. And I'm also going to bring in the happy birthday sentiments. Now there is, in the pack, you've got silver, you've got gold, and you've got rose gold. So we're actually going to use the rose gold. Now I've trimmed a tiny bit off of this. I'm going to keep cutting it down. We're going to revisit this, cutting it down a couple of times before I actually get it right, because I just was doing it and not really thinking that, you only need a slither. You only need a little tiny bit in that. So, trim it off. But this way, any pieces, it's like the die cuts. Any pieces that are not quite long, you can fake it. No one's going to know. Well, you know. I know. But no one else is going to know unless they watch this video. So here is the happy birthday sentiment pack. And it's got just a whole heap of happy birthdays and it's got with sympathies and congratulations. So it's not solely happy birthdays, but they are gorgeous. And I've got the rose gold sheet here. These are what I'm going to die cut that down with. The sentiment strips die cut, or die I should say. And this is going to give me a nice clean edge, and that's just going to be laid flat on that little strip and finish that off. With die cutting anything, it just gives you a nice smooth edge to it. And when you die cut it, you can tape it down and make sure it's nice and straight. It just finishes it off really nicely. So they coordinate with the sentiment packs that we've got, like the all occasions, Christmas. Can never say that too fast. We've got the black and all white sentiments. We've got, there's lots. There's little packs, there's bigger packs. You want it, we've got it. And of course, finishing off with my little clear crystal mix that I love so much. And that is going to be card number 2 once we put it onto our card base. Now, this next card, I really like, this is an extra bit of tip. Using up your scraps, I really like to quilt card pieces together. We'll come back to that in a sec. So I've picked out a whole heap. I've trimmed them down to be 12, I think it's 12 centimeters by 4 centimeters. And I'm going to cut these on a diagonal, just from one corner down to the other. And I'm going to do that with all of them and then put them back together again. I quite like to do a quilted look, so I will piece a lot of little pieces of the cardstock all together and just mix and match. And I really like that idea, which is a really great way to use up all those bits and pieces. So I've got a card panel here. Now this is not going to cover the whole lot. You could easily do this more into the middle with your tip right into the middle of the card panel. And that's going to do just fine. But I wanted a little bit on the side. So I have put a little bit of glue. I do need to go back and fill in the top pieces like that. I've put a little bit of glue down. I am rubbing the very tip of my triangles into a glue to make sure they've got enough, because if you get too much, it will get very, very oozy. And it still did ooze a little bit. The benefit of this is you can easily put a embellishment on, which is what we're going to do, and hide that very center of our triangles. With putting it in the side, in the middle, you just have to put it in the middle. Put your embellishment in the middle. It's all good. So I'm just going to go, so you can see there I've got a big corner that has nothing in it, but I'm going to trim this right down. So in order to get rid of that little corner, and I didn't really particularly want it terribly big anyway, it's going to be 12.6 centimeters by, I've just got a ruler here measuring it, 7.5 centimeters. So that's going to give me a lot of white space around the edge of it. So we're going to, sorry, I'm a little bit low, but I get engrossed in these things. Don't we all? We just get engrossed and then we wake up and it's like, oh, I haven't organized dinner yet. Oopsies. Just putting some pressure on him. Trim all the extra pieces off. And then we're going to trim that card panel down just a little bit. We don't need to trim too much off. So it's a relatively quick and easy sort of way to use up some of those scraps. I mean, you could go for a smaller panel, obviously, but I mean, this is smaller than what I would normally probably do, but it turned out lovely. I really liked it. I'm just sort of trying to figure out here my sentiments and what I'm going to do with them and my die cuts. So again, I have pulled out this happy birthday. It's not actually fully happy birthdays. And as you can see there, I've got a offcut of the Get Well Soon, and we're going to use him. So we're just getting an idea of where everything is going. Again, going to mount up my center panel, add my foam onto my embellishments. Again, I'm going to be trimming up some floral elements, so because they're just so pretty. So trim them up. Don't waste them. I mean, you're using them, so they're not a waste, but you know what I mean? We tend to hoard these things and we need to use them. So I'm going to trim all these down. I'm going to stick that down first. So yes, what is happening? By the time the move is still in the process, our staging got postponed, which actually is handy because it's meant to be, the house is meant to be staged on the 27th of January. And that if you're in Australia, you will know that Australia Day, and that's the holiday for the Australia Day. Well, it's not Australia Day, but you know what I mean? It's the holiday for it. And so I'm going to be away. I'm going to be going down with some girlfriends to a local retreat and having a bit of a crafty weekend. And so I did feel a little bit guilty of making the boys, even though my craft room is all virtually packed up, except obviously my camera stuff and microphone and things like that. But so I'm quite happy. It has been postponed. It is a slightly shorter campaign for selling, but hopefully we will get there. So yeah, it's just still a matter of fixing things. That is my card for today. I hope you're well. I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.